What's going on, everybody? Today I want to go over if Anaxa is worth pulling for in version 3.6 of Honkai Star Rail. Is this a bait banner? Should you go for him? Is he meta? Are there going to be future units that pull for him or that'll work with him? I should say. My fault. I want to go over all of this, right? So starting off with the big kicker, is he even worth it? Sure. Is he a must pull? No. Are you gonna regret skipping him? Probably not. Are you gonna regret pulling him? Probably not. Anaxa is one of those kinds of units, which is always a great thing to have. The thing with Anaxa is when he gets his rerun, there's one or two things that'll probably happen. He's either going to get shielded in the endgame in some way, maybe there'll be a buff in Apoc Shadow that works with him, or he'll get shafted entirely. These are things that you have to keep in mind. Right, this will be more apparent for Casterus regardless because she's actually a main DPS, but Anaxa, no matter what kind of units you have, all around it's just a cool unit to go for. Now, whether or not you should get him or you should get Casterus depends on a lot of things, and I will make a video going over which one you should pull for in version 3.6 in a little bit, which one has the better value. But basically, if you need a DPS and you're planning on investing into Casterus long term, then by all means pick her over Anaxa. But Anaxa he can function as a main DPS or a sub DPS, which is the beautiful thing about him. As a sub DPS, you can pair him in a team comp with the Herda, and they will have very similar damage output. They will be phenomenal. They're both currently tier 0 or S tier, which is the better tier ranking in my opinion. And you want to use them as a main DPS, that'll totally work too. It's just like I said, you're gonna need investment to make it work. A lot of people like to think that Honkai Star Rail is all about constantly pulling the newer units so you don't fall behind in the meta, which that is a way to play the game, but it's not the only way. A lot of people don't fully grasp the concept of actually investing into older units and making them work. I'm not joking. There are videos out there with an E0 S0 Sealy clear, a 0 cycle clear with an E0 S0 Sealy, and if I had to guess the cost of the entire team, it'd probably be around 6, 7, something like that. Probably not that much. You know, a few add-ons, right? Like E1, E2 Tribi, something like that. But that's totally doable. It's not an entire team of E6 S5 units that are getting these 0 cycle clears. It's just a couple of units with investment into them that is taking this one aged DPS, the first ever limited DPS, way further in the endgame than people have ever thought. It shows that a lot of people don't want to invest into these units. So, if you're going to go for Anaxa as a main DPS and you want to use him as a main DPS, you're just going to have to get ready and prepare to go all in, invest into him, make sure that he doesn't fall off. But I will say though, there are a few things about Anaxa. He definitely has quite a bit of longevity into his kit. The first thing is he can be used as a main or sub DPS, which that kind of flexibility is way more valuable than people might think. Even if he falls off as a main DPS, you can still use him as a sub DPS in future team comps, I'm sure of it. The other thing about Anaxa is with his bounce, you can likely use him in Pure Fiction for quite some time, get a lot of enemies hit, and if you have the Herda, you have a Pure Fiction team comp that is set for life. And for reference, there are still clears. You can still clear a Pure Fiction with Himiko and 4-star Herda, the original Pure Fiction team. So if you can clear with that team, if you can clear with a main DPS Pela, you can definitely clear Pure Fiction with the Herda and Anaxa for quite some time. With MOC and Apoc Shadow, I'm not too sure. Definitely more longevity in Apoc Shadow. It's just MOC that you need to be worried about because this is where the DPS shilling is really apparent. And even with a lot of investment, there are going to be some moments, some refreshes where your Anaxa just might not be able to do enough damage. Maybe there are mechanics in the endgame that just completely shaft Anaxa. We've seen this with other units before. An example being Firefly, who can't take on the toughness bars of the enemies because of the inflation, making her just all around way more useless, way weaker, right? Just straight up terrible unless you have investment into her. So at the end of the day, it all depends on how much you like Anaxa. If he's your husbando, right? Maybe you like Sue from Honkai Impact or Al Hatham from Genshin. I don't know. If you just think he's hot, you can definitely make him work for quite some time, pair him into a good amount of team comps, and make him work. And there's going to be some endgame modes where he'll be a lot better than the others. Like I said, with MOC versus Pure Fiction versus Apoc Shadow, right? You definitely have to know. But I think overall, if you can afford getting a Anaxa, you might as well go for him. I'm not even worried about his performance in the end game, honestly. My main concern about whether or not Anaxa is worth it or not all depends on whoever is coming after him and also at the same time as him. Because there are a lot of banners to pull for in version 3.6, and if you only get one 5-star out of the total 4 that are available, ignoring the Fate banners, are you gonna want Anaxa or are you gonna want Casterus? Maybe instead you want one of the new units like Terravox or Permentor Terra. Maybe you want to go for Evernight. I'm just saying, right? There are units with higher priority value potentially for some people. Let's not forget the units that are upcoming as well. Ignoring reruns, 3.7 is going to have Cyrene, who leakers are debating whether or not she's going to be a universal support. That's definitely something you want to be on the lookout for, right? In case Alicia is a universal support, that will be huge, like a modern day Ren Mei. There's also going to be 3.8, which will have Constance, who allegedly is our first break support since version 2.7, Fugue. Right, maybe break will finally be back, especially with the Firefly buffs that are coming next year, which we know is coming. Right, it's going to be between version 4.0 and 4.3, 4.4 potentially, but probably not likely. Right, so if you get a Noxa, you'll be winning. Don't worry about it, you'll be winning as long as you know how to play him, build him, all that kind of stuff. If you invest, he'll take you far. My only concern is just who, the other characters that are coming simultaneously, right? Characters that are coming a little bit after. Maybe instead of pulling for a Anaxa, maybe you save for Cyrene. Who knows? Maybe you pull for Evernight. Maybe you pull for Casterus. I don't know. That all depends on you, right? That all depends on your account. But if we're talking raw value, your Jades are not going to go to waste just by picking up Anaxa unless you genuinely just don't know how to use them. Which some people don't. Some people are probably going to get Anaxa and they just have no idea how to use him. And then they'll go ahead and complain that there's power creep that's ruining the game. Yet again, it's a vicious cycle, but it's going to happen with every character, not just with Anaxa. But that's about it for this video. I'll see y'all. Goodbye.